I'd be delighted, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to formally welcome Stephanie Edwards, who was officially promoted today, June the 1st, 2021, to the rank of Inspector. Stephanie will be the officer in charge of the Patrol Division and takes over that portfolio from Inspector Rob Warren, who's moved to the Community Engagement Division as the officer in charge. Just for some background, Stephanie was hired by the Saanich Police Department on September the 16th, 1996, after working 3 years with the West Vancouver Police Department. Now that brings her combined police service to date to just under 25 years. In terms of her career at Saanich, Stephanie has worked in patrol, youth and child abuse, crime prevention, street crime unit, professional standards, and the major crime unit, formerly known as the General Investigation Section. Stephanie was promoted to sergeant in May 2009, to staff sergeant in May 2016, and to inspector today. Stephanie competed in the 2020 inspector competition, placing first, and her promotion today is to replace Inspector Todd Bryant, who officially retired yesterday. I'd just like to give you a little bit of background as well on Stephanie. She's married to retired Inspector Trent Edwards, and they have one daughter, Sierra. Stephanie attended Simon Fraser University from 1988 to 1993 and has a Bachelor of Arts degree in criminology and psychology. She's also taken courses in the Leadership Development Program at Camosun College, attended the International Association Chiefs of Police Women's Leadership Institute in Orillia, Ontario, for an intensive one-week program for police women in leadership positions, and completed courses in the Business Administration program at the University of Victoria. Stephanie believes in the importance of community involvement and has been a positive role model and volunteered in several capacities over the years. Early in her career, she was a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary based out of Sydney. For 4 years, she was the Safe Arrival System Coordinator for Quarter of the Bay School, where she was responsible for the training, coordination, and scheduling of 40 parent volunteers. And for 3 years, she volunteered as a baseball and softball coach for teams in the Cordova Bay and Leyritz Little Leagues. She also believes in the importance of police officers engaging with their community and has volunteered her time in uniform in a number of capacities, including the multiple sclerosis campaigns, multiple Victoria Day and Pride parades, Remembrance Day ceremonies, our law enforcement memorial ceremonies, even the Uptown Flash Mob. Additionally, she's represented the Saanich Police in numerous fundraising and charity events, including first responder ball tournaments. Stephanie's participated on committees, including the Police Association Uniform Committee, Increment Committee, and most recently the COVID-19 Health and Safety Committee. In her street crime years, she was a drug expert and a level 1 undercover operator. In the general investigation section, she was a member of Team Victoria and a multi-agency working group responsible for developing sexual assault response protocols for Greater Victoria. She's also a member of the Vancouver Island Association of Women Police. Throughout her career, Stephanie's been committed to the development of others. She field trained 5 recruits. She's a Justice Institute of BC Police Academy trained assessor and has spent many years assisting with recruit and sergeant level assessment centers. And she continues to be involved as an assessor for the recruit simulation exams under the new recruit training curriculum. She's also been involved in the interviewing and training of our reserve officers and dedicates time developing and mentoring others so they are better prepared for transfers and promotion. She's been a member of the Critical Incident Stress Management Team, CISM, since 2005, and in that role provides confidential peer support to employees experiencing a critical incident or accumulated occupational stress. She's provided referrals to members requiring psychological services and participated in critical incident debriefs. Stephanie is very organized, strong administrative, investigative, and interpersonal skills. She has a highly developed sense of organizational awareness. And as a result of her diverse work experience throughout her career, she values and supports our organization's high standards in service delivery, accountability, communication, and employee wellness. And she's consistently demonstrated a strong ethic, competency, integrity, and leadership skills. She is an emotionally intelligent leader who's successful at improving individual and team performance. She's genuine, empathetic, she leads from the heart, and she supports everybody. She's a respected, authentic leader who cares about our organization and our members, and she's going to be an excellent addition to our senior officer team. and in her own words, will bring diversity in thought, strategic ideas and considerations, and significant interpersonal contributions. So we're very proud to have her, and I'll just turn it over if Stephanie would like to say anything.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Police Board. I'm very honored to be promoted to the rank of Inspector. I'm excited to be taking over the Patrol Division portfolio and continuing to work closely with all of our amazing frontline staff. Patrol is kind of where my passions lie. Certainly over the last 5 years, I've been part of the Patrol Division as a watch commander and then as the Patrol Division Staff Sergeant. I'm also really looking forward to having a seat at the senior officer table and bringing a female perspective to the table. And I feel very fortunate to be working with a police board that's very supportive of our police department. And I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person when we're allowed to resume in-person meetings. And thank you very much. I'm honored and I'm humbled.
Thank you. Members of the board, would you like to say some words? I think what we're seeing today is another example of the realization of what we were hoping would happen under Chief Green. And it's just an amazing leadership program. Board, over to you. Mary.
Yeah, just to add my congratulations to you, Stephanie. I know you've achieved this because of the great work that you've done and all your skills and attributes. But on top of that, it is wonderful to finally, once again, have a woman as an inspector in our ranks. And you're going to be a great leader for all the other women that are going to be following behind you and looking up to you as well. So all the best, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Other Linda, Glenn, would you like to? Glenn, go ahead, Glenn. I have my head. Yeah. Go ahead, Glenn.
As Mary always leads us so well, it's hard to add to what she has already said, but congratulations. And I think we're all looking forward to your contribution to the group. And it is a group that I think Scott has put together, and just look forward to the future. And we'll see you on the 22nd.
Thank you, Glenn. Linda?
Yes, congratulations, Stephanie. Well deserved, of course, and congratulations to Scott and Gary and Dean and the other senior officers. It's really it's not just one person, as Glenn says, it's a team, and it's a tribute to Scott as to how much he has made his team come together and has made an environment where good people want to stay in Saanich, and that really is good. So good work, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I'll echo the words of the board, but Stephanie, I do want to congratulate you on achieving, just the work that you've done through your entire portfolio really speaks to the value that you're going to bring to the voice at the table, right? Representation, voice. I do believe that Scott has chosen, a direction and a path that he sees this community moving towards. And I think that, listening to him speak of you, it comes from that authentic place in his heart, right? And I know that he feels that and he sounds that. And I am incredibly excited for you as an entire senior team to be doing the work that you guys are going to be leading in this community. So congratulations, and I wish you a very, very easy transition in all of your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Jacqueline, would you like to come in and say a few words?
Gosh, yes, thank you. Enormous congratulations. It's just wonderful to hear someone who clearly has worked so hard, and your resume, the words that Scott conveyed, I just think this is certainly something that you deserve. So I'm happy when people get recognized, and of course, especially a woman. But yeah, well done. Just superb background, super accomplished. Really, really happy for you. So enormous congratulations. Enormous.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline. Barwan, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I just unmuted it. Okay. Congratulations, Jacqueline. Obviously, best of luck to you in your new position, a very important position. And I look forward to meeting you. Obviously, Scott talked very highly of you, and I'm sure that's reflected by the entire senior staff and the other members of the department. So congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you, Barwan. So I'll just close out on this. One of the things that we're seeing in the department is the care of the leadership team for the career extension of everyone, to look after their emotional, mental and physical health, to make sure they have a rewarding career. but we're also seeing the enabling of all parts of the force. And the Stephanie's promotion today is a sort of a pinnacle of what we've seen so far. But I do know that the leadership team fully supports all the female officers and the female staff, and it's just an amazing leadership ingredient, and you don't just find that anywhere. And I think the board knows. And I also note that Glenn, Barwin and myself, we're outnumbered on our own board by females, and it's just added to the richness and value of this group. I can't say just how proud I am. Thank you. Let's go to the next item, which is the, if that's okay, the 15-year long service certificates. Scott, how would you like to handle that?
I'll just say a few words and turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor. So we're making a virtual presentation right now to recognize 15 of our staff, both sworn and civilian, for 15 years of dedicated service to the District of Saanich. As you know, each year the district hosts an annual retirement and long service awards banquet to honor retired staff members and employees celebrating long service milestones. After the banquet is held at Saanich Commonwealth Place, the recipients of the 15-year recognition certificates receive them through the district. And for our staff, those certificates are normally presented at a police board meeting in person by the mayor. The last annual banquet was held on January 11th last year, 2020, at Saanich Commonwealth Place. But the normal administrative process that occurs after the banquet was impacted by COVID-19, and the certificate presentations did not occur, unfortunately. The department recently received the certificates for our staff who celebrated their 15-year long service milestone in 2019. But because it goes right to the end of 2019, then that happens in 2020. And that's normally recognized through the banquet in January of 2020. So the district and the department humbly apologize for the delay in process. But today we'd like to formally recognize the following employees that were affected by this and congratulate them for 15 years of service. And if I may, Jeff Bevington, Janice Carmina, John Causey, Chris Dukeshire, Kim Friesen, Andrew Harward, Kathy Horsley, Stephen Kruk, Bima Ribeiro, Steve Robinson, Corey Scott, Michelle Seeley, Brad Walsh, Jason Whitaker, and Justin Whitaker. We want to thank our recipients for your commitment, dedication, and professionalism serving the citizens of Saanich. And I'll turn it over to the mayor for any additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I had the privilege to join a swearing-in ceremony just recently, and I think there was one male officer and 3 female officers. And one of the things we wanted to say was they've come to this police department and they will have an amazing career. And what we see with this department is that when people are staying 15 years in these longer periods, it is because the department appreciates who they are and helps build their careers. And I'm sure that each and every one of these people who've got to their 15-year mark is able to look forward to the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 15 years on their own volition and their choice, and see that Saanich Police Department is the place to stay. Because it's not just the quality of the people that we bring in, and I saw some amazing examples of that, and compliments to Paul Douglas and how he's selecting them, just remarkable people, but it's also the quality of the people we're keeping. It's not escaped my notice that other local police departments are losing officers, and that's unfortunate for them. I understand that, but the reason they're losing them is because they're coming to Saanich. So that's just the fact of the matter. And again, it's the testament to the things we started off saying early on. These individuals, congratulations to you all, and please continue to enjoy your wonderful career with the Saanich Police Department. Should we go to the next item? I need an approval of the agenda. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda of our June 1st? Moved by Mary, second by Glenn. Those in favour? Any opposed? Thank you. None opposed. Agenda is approved, Anita. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of our May 4th, 2021 meeting. Motion to approve. Thank you, Linda. Second. On the second, please. Is there a seconder to approve? Barwin, thank you. Well done, Barwin. I see your hand come up. Okay. Any, all those in favour? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Delegation presentation. Now we're going to have Gordon Harth from CREST 2021. And we do have this in your inbox. I've got a printout here and it's also on my screen. And we should just get into the delegation straight away. Thank you, Gordon. Can you take over, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you inviting me and letting me have a short presentation here about, I guess, what we've been up to and where we're going. So I'm going to follow along with my presentation. Please, anyone can ask any questions at any time. This was the CREST system in 2016. Slide just shows the 10 transmit sites that serve our entire region. And the transformation that's taken place over the last 4 years is fairly startling in terms of we've got about 30 sites now in play. And you can see that we tried to identify, I'll talk a little bit more about the technology, but where we've got VHF transmit sites, which was the spectrum we use for the entire old system, and where we've added a new public safety spectrum in the 700 megahertz band, which Saanich is using now. And then we sort of list off a series of projects or areas that we've got an interest or we're trying to acquire some sites there to provide even better coverage than we currently have now under the new system, the P25 system. Some of the key features the chief may have mentioned to you really are increased coverage, and that's because we've got more infrastructure out there, more towers covering a greater portion of the area, improved audio clarity. It's a combination really of moving partially to the 700 megahertz, which is a set aside for public safety, that spectrum. And because it isn't used by other entities like commercial entities, it uses VHF, for example, and because it's coordinated with the Americans across the border, we've got less background noise. And so there's just a better performance in terms of the audio clarity that first responders experience now that are using the 700 megahertz. We've got noise canceling technology to reduce background noise, when sirens are going or pumps are going. So the audio clarity is much better for first responders with the new radios. And we've got the ability to add some new features, including encryption, which wasn't as employed as much because there wasn't the capabilities on the old system. Now all police agencies have encrypted communications. And then I guess the last thing in terms of the new system is we've got an ability to back ECOM up if need be, and vice versa. So although we are standalone entities and operate independently, we do have that ability to coordinate and help one another out if needed. So what is next, I guess, from a CREST and a police standpoint is we've been working closely with your building department and the fire department primarily, who look after new buildings, to require, encourage, depending on the jurisdiction, in-building coverage enhancements. For example, Uptown, your newest major mall, has a bidirectional amplifier, because even with the new technology and even with the better network and the use of 700 megahertz, which is a sort of a smaller wavelength frequency, it is difficult to get into these very dense buildings and underground parkades. And so in some instances, we encourage municipalities to require the developer to put in a bidirectional amplifier, which basically enhances the signal strength in the building when first responders go in there. So it's just another level of safety, I guess, from your first responders, and that really speaks to the partnership that we have, I think, with each municipality and their building departments and the fire departments to make this happen in some of the more dense urban areas. We did a user survey once we were finishing off the project last year. It was nice to get some validation in terms of how the new system performs, how the users in the field feel about it. And so on the mobile radios, on the coverage and the clarity, you see the numbers are pretty strong. Portable radios are not quite as strong, but very good. The portable radios are a much more challenging environment. They don't have as much power, the antenna isn't as big, so the coverage and the audio clarity typically is a little less than what you see in a mobile. But the heartening thing, I guess, when speaking about HR, when I was listening to you, talk about your personnel issues and Saanich, and the same thing at Crest in terms of we're really heartened to know that people really think that our technical support is first class and that we're there for them. So that was very good. Performance by the numbers. These are extrapolated on the new system, but a busy system, lots of radios in play, and there's a fair amount of volume out there. There's 50 agencies that are using the service now. But just in terms of the difference in the metrics between the old system and the new system, so you see one busy for every 8,500 calls, where on the old system, which didn't have as much capacity, it was one busy out of about every 700 calls. So, a tenfold increase in terms of that capacity, which is really critical when things go south or there's a lot of activity going on. Really, that's the overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I would like to mention that.
Oh, yes.
In general.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Listening to the early presentations about some of the leadership examples within Saanich Police, I have to say that Saanich Police has always stepped up to help us in our service committees. For example, Chief Green was chair of our police service committee for a number of years. Currently, Daryl Harris is doing that job. Before him, Todd Bryant, who you mentioned just was retired, and the accolades for Stephanie Edward as well. Her husband Trent chaired that service committee. So there's been a long line of leadership at the service committee during a time, to be candid, when Crest perhaps didn't have as great a service as we would have liked to deliver in the early days, but I think we've largely overcome that. Anyway, I'll turn it over to see if anybody has any questions, and happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Gordon. So Mary, first question, go ahead.
Thank you, Gordon. Really appreciate it. I should know this, but I don't. What is your sort of corporate structure and your governance structure of Crest?
Basically, we have a 20-member board, and so every shareholder, every municipality has a single share in the corporation. So Saanich has one, the City of Victoria has one, Metchosin has one. So there's equal representation amongst the 13 municipalities. The CRD has 3 shares of the 20, and that represents the 3 electoral areas in the unincorporated areas of the CRD. So Southern Gulf Islands, Salt Spring, and Juan de Fuca. And then there are a number of Crown corporations that have a share. For example, the Solicitor General's office in the province of BC has one, BC Ambulance, BC Transit. The RCMP holds a share in a kind of unique formula from a governance standpoint. So it's a 20-member board, and we typically meet quarterly, but we have service committees, I mentioned before, for police and fire. So they meet fairly frequently. In fact, we've got a police service meeting this Thursday to talk about, whatever the issues are that police in this instance want a deeper dive into. So I think that has worked well in terms of, it's a large board, it's a little unwieldy sometimes, but at the end of the day, I've always been impressed by the director's ability to think regionally and act accordingly in the interest of Crest and the broader region. So hopefully that gives you a perspective on broad sense of governance.
And are you a not-for-profit corporation?
We are a not-for-profit business, so we fairly unique. Us and Ecom are we fall under the Legislation Emergency Communications Act. So there's some slight differences, but we don't make a profit. Everything we make obviously goes back into the system.
Thank you very much.
I think you're muted, Fred.
Thank you, Scott. Other members of the board, any questions for Gordon?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to comment that, as Gord mentioned, I was on the Police Service Committee back, I guess, between 2005 and 2009, and Gord's very humble when he mentions, maybe Crest not being able to produce a certain level of performance that they would have liked to, but that's through no fault of Crest. That's largely technology related, money, finances, and so on. Gord has always, and I say this unequivocally, given 100% to improving public safety through the Crest communications system. Always easy to work with, always professional, and lots of challenges for him. And certain leaders, I think, really at times had unrealistic expectation based on the technology that was available and the money that was available. But Gord has persevered this entire time, and we've got a high-performing system today. And a big part of that is because of Gord and his contributions and his determination for this radio system to succeed. So a huge thank you to Gord. And I think, Gord, you've just been excellent to work with all these years, and we've been fortunate to have you.
So, Scott, thank you for that. I'll add to this as well. When I was on council starting in 2014, I remember Councillor Wergeland was on the Crest board. And those were the days of the inadequate calls and the constant head scratching and lamenting. And to see these numbers now, 8,468 calls with just one busy for every call. That's remarkable. 6,333,875 total transmission. These were numbers that we couldn't even dream of back then. So you really have delivered, Gordon. And thank you very much. And I know that the Saanich council member who's on your board there appreciates it as well. Thank you. Any other questions? Gord, thank you so much. Any last comment, Gord?
No, thank you. Very, very kind words, and thank you for allowing me a short presentation. I appreciate it. Hope to see you all in person one of these days at something a little more fun, perhaps, you know, at downtown or some festival. So thank you.
Sounds good, Gord. Thank you. So,
bye now.
Thank you. So everyone, at this point, I'd like to make sure that we do acknowledge that the district of Saanich and our police department lies within the traditional territories of the Wahongwin peoples, represented by the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations, and the Wasanix peoples, represented by the Startlet, Pukachwin, Sayalt, Seacom, and Malahat nations. This week in particular, when we see the horror of 215 young First Nations bodies from age of 3, we think, onwards, in a mass grave, it's just shocking. All the flags in Saanich are half-mast, and yesterday all of council were wearing orange shirts, and we had a minute of silence. It's just a remarkable moment to realise the long history of our First Nations and the hard journey they've been on, the horror of it. Words can't say enough. It's also apparent that all of Saanich, we're committed to celebrating the rich diversity of all people in our community. We're guided by the principle that embracing diversity enriches the lives of all people, all of us. We all share the responsibility for creating an equitable and inclusive community, for addressing discrimination in all its forms. So I'd like now to go to the next item, which Scott will come to you. It's the divisional update as needed. Do you have a division to update? I mean, we've seen Rob's new office, and
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor. I'll just put it out if any of the inspectors have any comments or anything they want to pass on to the board at this time.
Hi, Chief.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chief. I think I was scheduled for divisional update for staff development for the June meeting. I'm in your hands if you want me to proceed with that.
You're muted, Scott. Scott, you're muted. Personally, I don't mind you being muted.
Sorry, Paul, that's in the in-camera portion.
Copy my error, Chief.
We can move on, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. So committee reports as needed. Let's go to 9.1 Finance. Glenn and Naomi and Linda.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Shelley and Linda, thank you. Coming back to governance and strategic planning, Linda and Shelley.
Just a couple of things, actually. I will be updating the work plan, so that will be for the next meeting. I've been helping out the the shareholders, stakeholder community on their terms of reference, so that we've been working on. We'll get a workshop plan for the fall, so I'm looking at that as well. And then I want to get to Shelley and Jacqueline and get some more of their orientation done. So next steps, after they've had that pile of paperwork, maybe we can have some deep diving on some of the issues. As you know, we had the telephone conference or the Zoom meeting with David Pilling from the DPS, and we were talking about some governance issues there and some training, and so that was a good session with David. And some of us joined the Surrey Police Board last week for Mr. Justice Bastarash and his discussion of the RCMP report on sexual harassment. So that was quite good from the governance perspective and training as well. So those are the updates from governance from me. Shelley, did you have anything to add?
Nope, I think we've been extremely busy, like Linda said, and I think, you know, working with Bowen and Linda on the new terms of reference and just that review and what that looks like. I appreciate them onboarding me as gentle and as quickly as possible, right? I think that that's been lovely. Again, I think the entire board has been really extending a very warm way to onboard Jacqueline and I as we're learning about just a ton of different areas of the work that's needed, right, and that we're trying to help with. And so I appreciate that there's a lot of skill and expertise as my fellow board members around the table, because it's allowing that for questions to come forward so we can best support the work of Scott and his team and whole department. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, Shelley, and thanks for letting us know that we're looking after you okay. So let's go to the next one then, which will be stakeholder outreach. And of course, because of the situation we have, there's not been much we can do, but Barwan and Shelley, have you had a chance to reflect a little bit on what approaches you'd like, or it's all on hold?
So why don't I start off? I had put together a draft terms of reference a couple of months back, but I was waiting for the report titled Voices of Our Black Communities to see if there's anything I can incorporate from there. So having looked at it, I didn't think there was anything much that I can add from there. So I distributed a draft a copy of terms of reference on May 5th to everybody. I got feedback from a few people. Linda contacted me and she said she has drafted something a couple of years ago, and she forwarded that and asked me whether I can blend the two or take whatever that's needed. And I also heard back from Rob Warren with his comments. And so I have that as well with me. So I've redrafted another terms of reference, and I've shared it with Linda, Rob Warren, and Shelley and Jacqueline. And I thought we'll work together in a smaller group to fine tune. And once the terms of reference gels, so we can send it out on a wider distribution to get feedback. So that's the state we are at. So the next steps will be to get the small group together to get some ideas and see how we can formulate the terms of reference that'll work well, and then seek wider input. Fred, you are muted.
You're muted.
It's muting me. I'm not touching this. Anita, are you muting me, or is it Scott?
Yes, it is me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, now I get it. I get it. Shelley, would you like to add anything at all?
No, I think that Bowen said it beautifully, and I think that that's our next approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, human resources 9.4, Mary and Jacqueline.
Hi, thanks. Well, we had a very good meeting yesterday. We missed you, Fred, but we'll try to give you a little bit of a summary. We won't go into all the details. We covered a lot of issues yesterday, but I would just like to start off with the issue of recruitment. It does kind of come back to what we were talking about a bit earlier, and the work that Inspector Douglas is doing, along with the rest of the senior management team and the diversity committee. And Paul, I wanted you just to make a few remarks about that. I thought it would be helpful coming from him for the whole board to know.
Thank you, Mary. Paul.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and board. In relation to our recruiting right now, we have We put out expressions of interest for a recruiting equity, diversity, and inclusion committee. We call it the READY committee. The READY committee's focus is to look at proactive ways to be in the community, making the Saanich Police Department a viable career choice for others outside of the normal streams that we would be in. Through the expressions of interest, we had overwhelming support. We had 19 people selected for our committee. As I was saying yesterday, we couldn't really exclude anyone because it's an inclusion committee. So we brought everyone on board. They're all very eager and excited to get going. We've had several meetings already. We have 2 subcommittees that have been formed. One is exploring the recruiting efforts and things that we can be doing more proactively. The other is a subcommittee on training for the committee itself to ensure that they're well informed when we move forward with literature, imagery, things like that. And we've also selected 2 co-chairs that will be assisting me on the committee to keep things moving. Currently, we're having meetings every week. And again, it's overwhelming the amount of positivity coming out of our membership who really have a desire to make this work. And they are very plugged into our community and connected with recruit applicant pools that we do have out there in some of these areas. And they're working to leverage some of those relationships. The vision for this committee will be to continue moving forward. And in fact, we will be having some conversations with both the ICA, the Victoria Intercultural Association, and the DAC, so the Diversity Advisory Committee. We've already had conversations with them, and they're pretty excited in principle as well that we're doing this. And we'll be leveraging our relationships with them to look for more meaningful ways to make these community connections.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Paul. And I think it's important, Bhawan, with the Community Outreach Committee, that we align so we're not, overlapping or duplicating interactions with some of these organizations, and we know what's going on with both. But it's a really great initiative, Paul, and it's great that so many of the officers in the department want to get involved. So, in terms of recruitment as well, we're seeing, lots of interest, both with young folks coming on as well as exempt. And as you know, we've always been anxious to make sure we keep increasing our female recruits. And it was wonderful news to hear that, we signed on to the pledge of 30 by 30, which was 30% women by 2030, which a lot of American police forces and Canadian police forces have signed on to. And Scott assures us we're not going to need to wait till 2030. We're going to get there much sooner, and with just some great women who will be joining us. We also had a great presentation by Deputy Chief Dean Duffy on the new performance development. Now, I'm not going to ask him to repeat it today, but I do think it's a presentation I would like the whole board to have. So we'll look at a future opportunity, because again, it's a whole new approach to how we are ensuring and supporting our personnel in terms of their professional development. Very innovative too. So all of these things really add up to making sure that we have the best police force that we can possibly have. It's really good news. We're going to be meeting with the Saanich Police Association, their board, and I'll have a bit more to say about that in the in-camera. It's been a while because of COVID that we haven't been able to meet with them, and we're still trying to work out some of the arrangements, which aren't that easy at the moment. We did talk about, Linda, we talked about the report that Justice Bastarash and the presentation he made to Surrey, and we wanted to be sure that, we were on top of those issues in Saanich, and Scott has assured us that we don't appear to have any problems. We had asked, we recruit people from the RCMP, how to make sure that they're not bringing those kind of values or approaches with them. And he feels pretty confident that with the psychological testing that we have and the approach that we have, they're not slipping through the cracks, but obviously something we need to keep on top of as well. And The recruit training, we all got the letter from the police services that the Justice Institute will be looking for increased funding, and I think rightly so. We had this discussion at the BC Association of Police Boards, and the ministry will be funding it up until April of 2024. The new funding arrangements where police departments will have to pay probably about an additional $19,000 per recruit won't come into effect till then. So there will certainly be some adjustment. I was thinking everybody's going to try to get their recruits into the police college 22 and 23 to get it at the lower rate, but we'll see how all that works out. And I think that's about it. And Jacqueline, anything you wanted to add at this point?
Gosh, no, thank you, Mary. Excellent summary. Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I hope you feel now as though you didn't miss out on too much, but no, very good. Thank you.
Actually, I have to say, I was all scheduled to come, but I don't know if you know, but we had 540 letters in for last night's council meeting on the animal dogs off leash in parks issue. We had 200 plus on gas-powered leaf blowers, and it seems residents think that they have a right to call the mayor. And so I had a busy afternoon, and I have to say, it was a great day.
All right. And I see you had a unanimous vote of council on the dog issue too. That took something. Good for you.
Yeah. Talk about pivot.
Right. Yeah.
No, it was actually the exercise was to get it on the chamber floor. The notice of motion was defeated at my request because it was not tailored to the feedback that we were getting. The feedback was amazing, and we're going to go to a more broad-based review of all the parks. And if you have 3 parks that are in difficulty, don't address those, address everything instead. That was the approach, which was kind of interesting, and it would take us 2 years to do it. However, it was an amazing evening and a great demonstration of the effectiveness of democracy.
Good.
Yeah, thank you for that. But I do apologize. Wow. I know it was the last minute to let you know. I've got someone at the door here. I have to let in. It's one of the I don't have my dog running back and forth, and I'm not going to the bathroom, as we've seen some people make a mistake of. I've got someone at the door here I've got to take care of. Mary, would you chair for just the next little while, please?
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Talking about dogs, I think actually the next item was mine as well, the BC Association of Police Boards. We met last week, and a lot of the same issues we were talking about in terms of recruit training. And we had a presentation by Dr. Kelly Sundberg from Mount Royal University in Calgary on a proposal and a study that he is doing with funding from police services on feasibility and appropriateness of establishing a college of policing in order to professionalize policing. So that's kind of a long-term initiative. It'll take another year, but a very interesting one. And he plans to be in touch with boards and the police leadership and police associations as part of that study. There was a discussion about e-com as well, and a lot of concerns that a lot of the police boards have about e-com, and I think we're going to invite them to come to our next meeting, and I'll be following up with you, Scott, in terms of kind of where we're at on that as well. And David Pilling, again, updated us about training for police boards. It is coming. They've got a contract now with a supplier who's developing the new program, and they hope there will be something ready for the fall on that. And also fairly imminently, they expect to have the Surrey Police Board piece that they've taped and they've edited, and they're waiting to get that out to people as part of the overall package as well. So I think any questions on that? If not, I'll move on. The next item is mine as well, on the Canadian Association of Police Governance. And I think, Anita, I guess I have to ask you this. The next part of the police governance series is June the 30th. Are we already signed up for that?
Yes, we are. And I actually just received this morning the agenda, so I'll distribute that after the meeting.
That's a 4-hour session from 8 a.m. till noon, and everybody will hopefully have the emails on that. They haven't confirmed the conference dates, but it looks like it's going to be September 29th and 30th. But we anticipate there should be more information about that. It will be virtual. So, I guess over the summer, will have to make a decision about who wants to be part of that, because I'm sure there will also be a fee, but usually it's a good event as well. And I think that's all I have for CAPG. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair. Good timing.
Thank you, Mary. So the next one is going to go on me, number 10, public awards, commendation and letters. Scott, can you talk us through that, please? What's the process we're going to do for the commendations and letters?
Well, that's generally just accepted by the board for information. We have some commendations that will be done in a formal ceremony coming up that we've prepared. It's largely just the board receiving that. And there will be there'll be invitations to the commendation ceremony for representation from the board.
So that's the list of the public appreciation letters, starting with Jennifer Allen, going down to Dave Smith. Is that the set?
Correct.
Okay, very good. And then the public thank you letters. No, that was for the long-term recognition. So it's that set there. Okay, Scott, thank you for that. Board, just received for information. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Old business. A couple of things. Board, you would have received two mailings I sent you, which is really old business on the work that we've done, which has been amazing for this department since February 2020 on the Black Lives Matter, that we see you, we hear you, we're with you. And one of the pieces I sent you was the start of our response to Angela Marie McDougall, who's working for Resilient BC Black Communities Convener, to give her an update on where we are. I have a more fulsome response to that on behalf of Saanich on where we are with the letters of interest they've asked us for. And then separately, at our agenda yesterday, we had the follow-up with the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, who wrote back asking for clarification on our previous notice of motion and a recommendation that went to the Union last May to get clarity on the elements that we were asking for. And it was an opportunity for me to rework in the feedback that we've had from Dr. Musa Magassa and our own stakeholder group that is embedded in that report that we've received. And this is to get it onto UBCM, to go to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, so we can draw the attention of all the mayors and councillors of British Columbia and all the mayors and councillors of Canada to the issues that we are hearing, seeing, and with our Black community on. And I think it's something that this police department has made possible, and I think it's unique in Canada. And I was referring to that in the council meeting yesterday. I just want to say thank you to you all. And the reason it came back was for clarity, but it was an opportunity to be able to act on this thing, which is not going to be solved by one or two letters. It's actually a many-year program to make sure these are being met. Within that correspondence was about entrepreneurialism. And it's interesting that the federal government, we did receive their letter from the PMO's office back in June last year. And just recently, we've heard them announce funding for Black entrepreneurs. So I think the different levels of government are on the same page here. So it's not that the door isn't open, but I think it's important that we continue to raise the voice for our community, and enabled by the board and the chief. Shirley, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, I would. Thank you, Chair. Question, and just as a newcomer to the board, I'm curious as to, alongside this report that we received, what relationship we currently have with our rights holders and our Indigenous community as it's reflected to our relationship with them, or what we hear for their relationship with policing, right? And so what does that look like, and what and how have we solicited information to uphold their voice as well, right, as rights holders or on their traditional territory, right? Just as that curiosity, because I know that as we step forward and we bring forward this as a high priority for us, right, and honoring our traditional territories that we also walk and work within, right? I'm just curious as a new member to the board what that looks like, or if that's going to be some of the work that we're going to see through our stakeholders community committee that we're forming, and that we want to solicit that information, if that's the next place for that.
So I'll say that I'm aware that we've started that journey, and where there's a number of structural things inside the department that maybe Scott will give a quick summary of. And then that's also embedded in our stakeholder. And you've seen some of that work in our recruitment videos. But Scott, would you like to take that on, please?
Yeah, the other inspectors can comment as well, Shelley. So largely the relationship is through the Native Friendship Center, which is a long-standing relationship, both largely through our community engagement division. It goes back some time. And also what's a very positive thing is Staff Sergeant Daryl Underwood, who is Indigenous, has, because he's now in community engagement division, he's furthered that relationship to get it into our school liaison officer program as well, which is significant. We're very happy about that. I think you're aware as well with our recruiting video and having Ron Rice be participating in that. And representation through the Greater Victoria Police Diversity Advisory Committee. So lots of work, lots of relationships, very positive relationships. And I know Rob will be building on that and working with the stakeholder committee with your assistance as well to see how much further we can go to build those relationships in any capacity possible.
Okay, Mary, would you like to come in on that, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when the board did an outreach when we were hiring our new chief, and so that's sort of the last time we did a big community outreach, and we certainly included all of those groups as part of their outreach to get their views in terms of, you know, what they wanted to have with the chief, and that was certainly very helpful. And we have met with the DAC, the full board, met with them some months ago. And we may want to look at doing that again at some point too.
Thank you. Shelley, any feedback on that? Let us know if there's more we can do.
Sure. No, I truly appreciate the conversation because I just think that as we're looking at the diversity of our communities that we're serving and the populations that we're seeing in the populations that we're serving, actually as a department and as a board, just how do we, you know, one of the biggest things is that culturally responsive practice is the recipients of the service, right? And so what are we hearing from the recipients of the service? And, you know, one of the areas that I know that we're working towards across all sectors is, you know, how do we uphold, you know, the calls to action, right, from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? What does it look like for UNDRIP and all of these pieces? And what do we need to do as not only as a board to better inform ourselves, but as a department or in the work that we're doing as we start to push forward some of these recommendations and that it's aligned to that? And so I was just curious so that way I know what entrance points I can come in to walk alongside and support in this work as we continue to make the best improvements that we can as possible for those that we are serving. Thank you.
Wow, just the way you talk, Shelley, walk alongside. I mean, wow. That is exactly what we're trying to do with the groups that we're working with, and it comes so naturally from you. Mary.
Yeah,
Mary,
sorry to intervene again, but I just wanted to share that I'm on the board of Pacific Opera Victoria, and we've been going through a similar process. We've had a very extensive series of presentations, first on the IBOC and now on Indigenous, and Tanya Claremont is the consultant who is working with us on it. There have been some terrific presentations, and I don't know whether they can be made available or not, but Tanya's herself, I was so impressed with. And I know we have one on UNDRIP coming up this week. So it might be interesting to find out if between organizations in our community, we can share some of these activities too.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I think the next item is adjournment of our open meeting. An announcement of our next public meeting is September the 7th. Any change on that, board, or are we happy with that? Okay, we're seeing any difference? I'm not seeing any difference. So we'll go with that. September the 7th is our next meeting, and this part of our meeting is now closed, and we'll go to our in-camera. And I need to take a 1-minute recess because there's someone who's been working on my property and I've got to go and pay them. Thank you.